Very good morning. Good to see all of you. In fact, I think post-pandemic, this is my third or fourth session like this. Every time, we get to meet. I personally get, re-energized, keeping in mind, what is going all around and what is going to happen next, where the energy is very, very important. So Anjali, you need to take care of this introduction. It's too long, and most of these are outdated. So we talk about relevance, so those are not relevant anymore, but we will try to now today discuss things which are more relevant than those introductions. Thanks to One-to-One Connect and Ecosystem for giving us this opportunity to partner with them and to talk about the big 5 priorities, which I'm sure since yesterday there are a lot of eminent speakers and analysts who have covered those subjects. I have been given a subject to talk about, which I guess I thought when I saw the subject, I thought is non-technical. But when I realized that how technology is so ingrained in that subject, it was a surprise for me also. So thanks Venu for setting the context around seamless distributed enterprise. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the physical or the organizational structure in a distributed enterprise with a logical structure of a distributed enterprise. And that logical structure is, trust me, driven by technology. So this is kind of the core of my presentation or the session. And I will try to keep it as non-technical as possible. Although we cannot avoid technology, but we'll talk about that, but it will be mostly non-technical. Talking about more of connecting technology with a distributed enterprise framework, and probably hopefully it should help you to connect your current organization with the technology initiative which you are taking. So what is new about that? Why you are all of a sudden talking about a distributed enterprise? Distributed enterprise was always there. For ages we have seen banks with so many branches, a manufacturing company with plants, warehouses, FMCG company with godowns, distribution centers, dealer distributors. So what is new about that? The new thing is, the reason we are discussing this is because the entire face of the distributed enterprise is undergoing a huge metamorphosis, right? Of course, pandemic is the reason, and yesterday evening I was remembering a movie which I watched a long time back in college, Blame It on Rio. So whatever good or bad is happening now, we blame it on pandemic, right? Whatever changes are happening now, we try to, map it. Was it there before pandemic, or is it a new thing which has started during pandemic, correct? So this modern distributed enterprise is evolving with digital technology, and obviously technology, all of us should be very happy who come from the technology world that we will remain relevant for the next 5, 10, 15 years, because all these things, what is happening over here is driven by technology. And the reason being, of course, they're a catalyst. The pandemic is a catalyst, the technology is a catalyst, and more importantly, the customer demands or the need for a superior customer experience is the biggest driver today. If you connect anything and everything, almost anything and everything what you're doing are to provide a superior customer experience, that customer may be sitting outside the enterprise, which is our customers with whom we do business, or those customers may be inside the organization. So these are a few definitions. These are a few flavors, of a distributed enterprise. These are traditional stuff. So you always had a multiple headquarter model. Like particularly the global organizations will have their say an US headquarter and a Europe headquarter and India headquarter, Asia Pac headquarter. So this headquarter model. Second one is the hub and spoke model. One headquarter and multiple offices, typically say a bank. They will have one headquarter and multiple branches, regional offices, LHOs, a hierarchical system, right? And in between came a in between came a co-working model, right? Why the co-working model evolved? Co-working model evolved because organizations did not want to open up many offices, but they still wanted to come closer to the employees. Okay, so there can be a co-working model, say, co-working space, and there are a lot of other companies, WeWork kind of companies whom we have seen that they are they came up with co-working spaces, correct, where the employees can come to office. But trust me, most of these models were structured around the organization and not around the employees. The reason being, you set up office, you expect employees to come over there. But all of us know how things have changed. So the hybrid model of working or the hybrid model of the organization structure is where organization is trying to get closer to the employees. So there are two things happening. One is every business house or organization is trying to go closer to the customer. And we are also trying to go closer to the employees. And that is how the hybrid work model has evolved during pandemic. And I don't think, we should talk, I should be talking a lot about that because all of us are aware what has happened. However, let us look at it. The center of gravity of business is moving closer to these three actors in the stage: the customers, the employees, and assets. Now, for the customers, the superior experience and faster services are the prime driver why the business houses need to go closer to the customers, and it has been always there. Why the banks used to open up, bank as an example, so many branches, because banks like any other business organization wanted to go closer to the customer, right? Employees. So this is the new change. The organization was not going closer to the employees. Rather, the employees were supposed to come closer to the organization. Now, why that has become very important? Because your distributed enterprise and Venu has spoken a lot about that today, in today's time, and particularly post-pandemic, the retaining the talent or sourcing the talent and retaining the talent are the biggest challenges for any organization. And hence, an employee need is almost becoming equivalent to a customer need. So this is a completely changed scenario. And of course, assets and machines and sensors and devices, these are the new actors on the stage. And during the next part of the session, I would try to cover how, because of these assets becoming a very important, an integral part of the enterprise, is driving so many changes across the enterprise. Okay, so edge is becoming more important than ever. All these days we have to talk about data center, cloud. We talk about all these things almost on a daily basis. But the buzzword which is coming up now is about the edge. And why edge? I fundamentally believe because at the edge, the data is getting generated and data is also getting consumed in the edge, isn't it? Information and data are getting, data is particularly getting generated on the edge, and they are also getting consumed on the edge. So edge is becoming more important than ever, and again in the context of devices, because just imagine, we as a company, we used to think we are a networking company also, right? Network is one of our largest business. For us, our edge, for a data center company, the edge is where the data center ends. For a networking company, the edge is probably, where the router at the customer premise. But that edge, the very definition of edge is getting disrupted. Now, edge is the sensor sitting in the machine, right? So edge is getting deeper and deeper into the enterprise. And the definition of edge can actually change from use case to use case. The definition of edge will be defined by the specific use case. For a bank, the edge will be something. For a utility company, the edge will be something else. For a healthcare company, the edge will be something else. For a healthcare company, a sensor on anybody's body can be the edge, right? That is the edge, because the data is getting generated over there and data is also getting consumed over there. So let us keep this in mind. Edge means where the data is getting generated and the data is getting consumed. And for a manufacturing company, the edge can be within the factory itself, right? So there are various definitions of edge. So this is very interesting. So when we talk about a distributed enterprise, and this is probably, I mean, from a management view of an organizational, a distributed, enterprise, and a technical view of or a logical view of a distributed enterprise through the eyes of, CIO, CTO, or CDO community, how these are closely coupled, and how these are going to be more and more closely coupled as time progresses. So they say that a modern distributed enterprise is like a microservice architecture. Now let me try to demystify this. So in a traditional company or a traditional enterprise, and now you are not talking about locations. We are not referring to how many number of offices, where are the offices. We are talking about the logical structure of a company. So normally the traditional companies are monolithic, right? There is one management set of people sitting somewhere who controls everything, right? They have a strict vertical hierarchy. Everything, for anything and everything, it has to go to the head office or to the management for approvals. People located in offices, I mean, everybody has to come to the office, right? And use closely tied software products. Like the software products will not give you freedom, right? Now all these things are getting obsolete as the day passes. The reason being, there are two reasons. Just imagine if your life is like this as individuals, if our life is like this, will we accept? We are not going to accept. So a distributed enterprise in a logical sense, and again, I'm not talking about the physical distribution of offices. I'm not talking about where are the sensors located. A logical distributed enterprise of tomorrow will look like this, or even for a lot of companies, it's still looking like this, wherein you will have multiple departments in the company. You will have sales, marketing, HR, PMO, tech team, finance, legal team, and a whole lot of other departments, engineering, production, etc., right? Now, in a distributed and modern distributed enterprise, how will these specific departments function? Each of these departments will have an autonomy of its own. They need not go to the management for approval of anything and everything. However, they will be governed by something called delegation of authority, that unless it is required to go to the management, and which will not be defined by the individual users, but which will be defined by a software. So this is almost like a software governed distributed enterprise, which will be the modern face of a distributed enterprise. Now let me explain. So say Aman, who is sitting here, he heads our sales operation, right? So for a person who is heading sales operation, his or her only priority has to be only to get orders. Why he or she should be bothered about whether I should be able to deliver the good. Say for example, if you're selling a particular product, a sales guy's job is to only get orders. Now, the supply chain management guy or the factory guy who is producing that good, their job has to be more and more production, but of course with the visibility of how much sales is happening or how much projection is happening, correct? Now each of these departments will use their own set of specified applications, simplified applications, which are not very complex, but which individually performs their own function, but integrated by a software in the center, which will govern, which will capture the business processes, Now, what is that business process? How each of these individual departments will work with each other, and business processes which are embedded in each of these functions. This is probably going to be the most modern phase of a distributed enterprise. Now, when you map your current enterprise structure with this framework, you can very well consider whether you are on the right path or you are lagging behind. The reason it is important, if you look at all the digital native companies, all the digital native companies and the modern companies and which has been created 3 years, 5 years back, almost all of them are structured like this. It is not possible for enterprises like us who started business, 25, 30 years back to be, all of a sudden, to be structured like this. But when you are making your application decisions, please keep this in mind that this will be a good time for connecting the decision around applications or of a modern application to a distributed enterprise architecture. Now, I'm sure, since yesterday you have been talking about technologies. Now, let us talk about 5 technologies which will have a major impact on the future, for a future-ready distributed enterprise. And the whole idea and concept of distributed enterprise is actually emerging. Okay, there is hardly any company who is fully working on a logical as well as a physical framework of a distributed architecture. As we have just discussed, computing power is moving to the edge. So computing power has to move to the locations where data is getting generated and where data is getting consumed. So we had seen the journey where the compute was moving from an on-premise data center to cloud and various types of cloud, correct? The next phase of transformation is going to happen then when your computing infrastructure, the cloud will be moving, whether you call it cloud or computing power, has to move to the edge. Now, what does it mean? Let me give an example of a modern retail company. So all of us, all of us got used to buying stuff through e-commerce sites, but our best experience is when we can go to a retail shop where there are, the products are displayed. And this experience I personally felt in Decathlon. I don't know how many of you have shopped in Decathlon. You can use a mobile app inside the retail store, okay, and do almost everything. And there are companies who are working on AR/VR experience, through that app. So you can actually find out where your goods are. You can actually check the inventory, whether it is available or not, from your mobile app, right? So that compute power, and trust me, the data is lying in the cloud somewhere, but that computing power is in your hand in the form of a mobile phone, or an app rather, right? So these are various examples, and there will be examples in every vertical and every sub-vertical. You as a CIO need to find the use cases, right? Which will excite your customers, which will improve the customer experience. The cloud is going hybrid, and I'm sure this is not the first time you are hearing this, or this is not the last time you'll hear this. The reason it is very important is because the location of your application should depend you should not be leaving the vision of your cloud service providers. You should choose your cloud based on your vision. And pardon me for saying this, I do a lot of customer meetings. And I hear that X customer is talking to hyperscaler A or hyperscaler B. They are not talking to anyone else. I ask them, why you are only talking to hyperscalers? Is hyperscaler the only cloud? Hyperscaler cloud is not the only cloud. And all of us, and everybody is saying loudly that it is going to be the era of hybrid cloud, meaning there has to be some set of people who will work with you and probably figure out where your application should lie. Should it lie in an on-premise? Should it be on a private cloud in your on-premise data center, where you can avail cloud-like commercial model as infrastructure as a service, or you should adopt a SaaS model for your specific use case, or you should be putting your customer-facing application where you are not aware of the number of customers which you will have on a public cloud. So these are the various considerations. And hyper-automation is also going to be, this is not the in thing, but it is going to be more and more important as and when your number of devices are becoming a big part of your enterprise. It is not possible to manage so many devices until and unless these machines start managing themselves through a governance process, of course through machine learning and by use of technology. So data security, I think enough has been spoken yesterday, and Venu is also mentioned, so I will not cover that. And of course AI ops. Why AI ops is important is because more and more of your IT operations, or selectively your IT operations, you should be looking at, driving it based on algorithms rather than doing through manually, or rather than doing through the model of tools and people. It has to move completely to a state of managing the infrastructure. I'm not saying that everything will get managed like that, but our customers must take the step of where you are using technology and algorithms for managing your IT operations or part of your IT operations. The primary challenge of a distributed enterprise, as everybody and all of us know, is security, because your data will be located in so many places. The access to so many places has to happen. The only way to manage this kind of situation is not to trust anyone, and I guess this topic has got discussed at length yesterday. I'm sure all of you are aware more than me about zero trust security. So here the fundamental is not to trust anyone, be it the workload, devices, data, network, or people. Don't trust anyone. But one important thing, and there are organizations, there are companies who are coming out with products and services, who has products and services which are delivered on a services model for implementation of zero trust security in your enterprise. But what is very important here is like IT operations, the security operations, vulnerability assessment, visibility and analytics, what is happening with respect to security in an enterprise is equally important like your uptime of your infrastructure. And I hope I'll not be wrong to say that your CISO in your organization are going to be the most important people going forward. Okay? So when you are going fully digital, that time your security concern is the biggest concern which is going to haunt you. So why distributed enterprise is a matter of survival? So just imagine we have kind of built certain kind of resilience during pandemic, and post-pandemic, if we go back to our earlier mode of working, right? The learnings what we have got during pandemic, if we do not take this, if we do not embed this in the organizational framework, like the way we work, and specifically in the context of a distributed enterprise, how will you be crisis ready next time? So these way of life will bring resilience as well as flexibility and agility towards a modern enterprise, and specifically towards a modern distributed enterprise. Because a distributed enterprise, on one hand, we may think that is very difficult to manage, okay? But trust me, if we take the learnings of pandemic, all of us know now today to a great extent that how to manage our organizations, and by use of technology, we can only get better and better. Now, this is my last slide. I'm sure I have kind of overshot the time almost by 5 minutes. So just imagine, just think about your service providers. All these years, you are all experienced, professionals handling IT in various functions of IT for a long time. Typically used to deal with the large outsourcing providers, the large technology OEMs, the large cloud providers, and many strategic partners with whom you signed up, right? Just imagine when the game is shifting to edge, your service providers, people like us, Airtel, Jio, Tata Communications, so we are a fraternity, correct? We were probably doing a an underlay job all these days. I mean, if we think from a connectivity perspective, you are deciding everything, what you need is a connection, right? So in the entire value chain, that was probably coming in the lowest part of the value chain. But just imagine when your edge strategy is going to be so important, and when your connectivity to the edge, security at the edge, as well as the use cases, how you really deploy the use cases at a scale, I visualize that those service providers who has been serving you on the network side of your ICT portfolio are going to be more and more relevant, and hence whatever we are seeing, whatever we are hearing are only pointing towards that. We as service providers are investing huge amount of money as well as building skills to partner in your edge transformation journey, which I believe is one of the most integral part of a modern distributed enterprise. Thank you so much.